Hi, and this is lesson 3.3, and you can go right to page 150. There is no vocabulary in this lesson, so I'm just going to go right to some book problems. We're going to walk through the steps together, and we're working on multi-step equations. Now, if you think over the last couple lessons, we've worked on one-step and two-step equations. Multi-step just means that we could have more than two steps to solve. But you're going to be hearing the same things from me over and over again. So I'm hoping that because we've been practicing in the same way through the first two lessons, this lesson would be hopefully just as easy. So let's go right to number 4. So of course we're going to write the problem down first. Now the next step, remember, we always want to simplify next. So if I look carefully here, I can definitely simplify because I see like terms. I see 12v and 10v. So let's simplify that. When I do that, I get 22v plus 14 equals 80. So I simplified it. Now, next, let's think about our onion. There's the center. Times 22 is the next layer. Add 14 is the outside layer. I got to peel the onion away from outside to inside. I got to get rid of plus 14 first. So let's do that. I'm going to subtract 14 from each side. I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality. So I get 22v equals 66. So I use the subtraction property of equality and I simplified. Next step, I got to peel away. Remember that next layer was multiplying by 22. To peel that layer away, I got to use the division property of equality. I got to divide each side by 22. And when I do that, v equals 3. Last step, I should check this thing. Let's see, is 3 correct? Well, let's go back to the beginning. Plug in 3 and plug in 3. You can use your calculator. I'm going to do it just in my head. 12 times 3 is 36. 10 times 3 is 30. If I take 36 plus 14, that's 50, and 50 plus 30 gives me 80. Okay, I just checked it. Now remember, if I'm doing my work right, every equation should be equivalent. If I plug in 3 here, 3 does equal 3. If I plugged in 3 here, I got 80 on the left, I got 80 on the right. If I plug in 3 here, 22 times 3 is 66, and 66 plus 14 is 80, that's equivalent. And if I plug in 3 here, 22 times 3 is 66. You notice how I'm getting equivalent equations all the time? It's because I did my work right, okay? If I'm not getting equivalent equations, that means I have a mistake in my work somewhere. Let's go to number 12. This is where the onion part really helps out. Now, in number 12, you'll notice we have some distributing to do. Now, when you distribute, and I should maybe just write this down at the bottom, when you distribute in a problem, when we have distributing in a problem that we need to solve, when you see a distributing situation come up, there are two ways you can work these out. One would be to simplify first and solve normally, okay, as I've been outlining. Or the other thing would be you could think of the onion and peel the onion away layer by layer. I'll do it in both ways here and just kind of use this as a sample, okay? So let's say for number 12, let's do it. I'm going to do it this way first. I'm going to simplify first and solve normally. Well, let's simplify. We'll just write the problem down. Let's simplify. Well, I see I got some distributing to do. So I'm going to have 3 plus 4 times z is 4z. My pen just froze up for a minute and screwed that up. Let me try that again. I got 4z. 4 times 5, positive 20, equals 31. Okay. Now I'm not done simplifying because you notice I have like terms. I now have 3 and 20. I can add those together. So I have 4z plus the 23 equals 31. Okay? Well, now think of the onion. Z is the center, times 4 comes next, plus 23 is the outside layer. I got to get rid of plus 23 obviously first. Let me just undraw my onion. I have to get rid of 23. I'm going to subtract 23 from each side. And when I do that, I'll get 4z on the left and 8 on the right. Now remember, this step here is called the subtraction property of equality. Now to get rid of the times 4 layer of the onion, I got to divide by 4. Z equals 2. And then I should check it. Okay, let's just check it real quick up here. If I plug in a 2, 2 plus 5 is 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And 3 plus 28 is 31. It checked out. So that means all my work's right because all these equations are equivalent. They had to be because I got the correct answer. Now, I'm going to do the same problem real quickly one more time, but this time I'm going to think about the onion. So remember, if you're distributing, you got two choices. You can simplify first like I've been teaching you all along, or we could think of the onion. Let me draw up my onion for this problem. It's going to look a little different because watch. Z is the inside layer, plus 5 is the next layer. It's in the parentheses. The times 4 is the next layer, and then I got this outside layer. Now remember, the sign in front of 3 tells me what to do with it. So there's no sign in front, that means plus. Okay? Well, let's solve this problem by just unpeeling the onion layer by layer. Do you notice I have 1, 2, 3 layers I have to peel away to get to Z. So let's peel away the first layer. That would be subtract 3. So let me undraw my onion just to make it easy to see the work. So my first layer to get rid of is that plus 3 layer. I'll subtract 3. And when I do that, I get 4 times Z plus 5 on the left, and I have 28 on the right. Okay, now let me redraw the onion again so we can see it. Inside layer, plus 5 is the next layer. This times 4 is the outside layer. I got to get rid of times 4. Well, to get rid of times 4, I would have to divide by 4. So let me divide the left side by 4 and the right side by 4. So when I do that, you notice times 4 and divide by 4 cancel out. So I get Z plus 5 on the left, and 28 divided by 4 is 7 on the right. So now, as you see, I'm left with one layer of the onion. I got to get rid of the plus 5 layer. If I subtract 5 from both sides, I'm getting Z equals 2. You notice I'm getting the same answer either way. So when you have distributing involved in a problem that you have to solve, you really have two choices. You can simplify first like I did here on the left, and then you'll get a two-step problem, or you could just think of your onion and draw your layers and then just peel it away from outside in. Either way works, all right? So we'll just do a couple more here. Let's go on to number 27. And I guess maybe I'll just do both methods. I'm not going to do every problem with both methods. I'll just work back and forth. So I tell you what, for this problem, because there's decimals, I'm just going to draw up my onion and peel away from inside or outside layer to inside. So let's do that. Here's the center of my onion, the A. So let me highlight. Okay, so there's the center. Times 3 would be the next layer. Minus 1 would be next. The times 1.2 would be next. And this outside layer way out here is the plus 8.9. Remember, when I say plus, I'm talking about the sign in front. I got to get rid of the plus 8.9 first. Let me just undraw these layers so I can make my work clear to you. Okay? So let's subtract 8.9 to get rid of the plus 8.9. Oops. I meant subtract over here, not plus. Subtract. So when I do that, cancel out, I get 1.2 times 3a minus 1 equals 14.9 minus 8.9 is going to give me a 6. I'm doing my mental math right. Okay, let me drop my onion again. Here's the center. Times 3 is the next layer. Minus 1's beyond that. And the outside layer now is a times 1.2. I got to get rid of that outside layer. I got to get rid of times 1.2. So let me just undraw my onion. To get rid of times 1.2, obviously I have to divide by 1.2. Okay, so times 1.2 and divide by 1.2 cancel out. I have 3a minus 1 on the left. 6 divided by 1.2 is 5 on the right. Well, I don't know if I even have to talk about the onion anymore. You can see I have 2 layers left. I have the times 3 and the minus 1. I'm going to have to add 1 first. That's the addition property of equality. I get 3a equals 6, and I got to divide by 3, and 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then all I got to do is check and see if 2 is right. Let me plug it up here and check it real quick. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. 1.2 times 5 is 6, and 8.9 plus the 6 does give me 14.9. This does check, okay? I already talked about this. There's two ways we can do a problem like this. We could distribute first and solve it, or we could just peel away the layers of the onion. Either way would work. I think I've already emphasized that, so I'm going to skip over that. Let's go to number, I have a worksheet I gave you, okay? The worksheet I gave you, question number 4, it says the perimeter of a rectangle is 158. Now remember, perimeter means if I add up all 4 sides, I'm getting 158. It says the width is 3 less than the length. Find the length and width. Okay, so they tell me 2 things. The width is 3 less than the length. I don't know anything about the length. I'll call the length x. The width, I don't know that either, but I do know a little clue about it. It's 3 less than the length. It's 3 less than this. That'd be x minus 3. Now, perimeter means if I add all these up, I'm supposed to get 158. Well, let's do that. If I add x and x minus 3 and x minus 3, I'm supposed to be getting 158. Now, let's just use the rules you've been taught then. Step 1, let's simplify this thing. Well, you notice I add up my x's, and there's a positive in front of each. I have 4x. My other like term is negative 3 and negative 3. That's minus 6. And that gives me 158. You notice you have a simple two-step problem to do now. I got to get rid of the minus 6 layer first, and then I have to get rid of the times 4 layer next. So let me do that. To get rid of minus 6, I'm going to add 6. 4x on the left would give me 164 on the right. And to get rid of the times 4 layer, I'll divide by 4. And I'm getting x is 41. Now let's make sure we answer the question. Because, you know, sometimes you get to here and you're like, oh, man, I got it right. I'm all set. X is 41. We haven't answered the question. The question was find the length and the width. Well, x is 41. That means this is 41. My length is 41. My width is 41 minus 3. That's 38. Let's check that. If you take 41 plus 38 plus 41 plus 38, you better be getting 158 when you add those 4 up. Better be getting that. And let me check. Is the width, is 38 3 less than 41? Yes, it is. Okay? Just one more out of the book, 24. Again, here would be a sample. You have 2 ways you can do this. You can either simplify by distributing first, or you could unpeel the onion. A problem like this, I like the onion method better, and I'm going to tell you why. Just think about this. Most of you do not like fractions and decimals. If you take 2/5 times 9, you're going to get decimals and fractions. If you take 2/5 times 2b, you're going to get decimals and fractions. Most of you don't like to have to deal with those. So the way you can avoid dealing with them is just unpeeling the onion, okay? Let me unpeel my onion. So here's my center layer. The times negative 2 would be next. There's a positive in front of 9. The plus 9 would be next. And the times 2/5 would be the outside layer of the onion. So to work from outside in, I got to get rid of times 2/5 first. Okay? So let's get rid of times 2/5. To get rid of times 2/5, I can just divide by 2/5. I know that looks a little funky, but that's what I'm doing. Okay? Cancel, cancel. Times 2/5 divided by 2/5 cancels out. So I have 9 minus 2b on the right. Now remember, if you're using your calculator, on the left side, this is a common mistake that people make. If you're going to plug this in your calculator, you must remember to get parentheses around the 2/5. If you just do negative 14 divided by 2 divided by 5, your calculator will not give you the correct answer. You want your calculator to take negative 14 divided by the fraction 2/5. If I'm doing that in my head right, I think I am, you should be getting negative 35 out of that when you do that. Now let's think about our onion again. B is the center layer. The times negative 2 is next. That plus 9 layer is the outside layer. I got to get rid of plus 9. So I'm going to unpeel these away. Let's get rid of plus 9. And we're going to get rid of plus 9. Oops, I erased one layer too much. We got to subtract 9 to get rid of plus 9. I'm using the subtraction property of equality. That gives me negative 44 on the left, and I have negative 2b on the right. Now then my last outside layer is that times negative 2. To get rid of that, I have to divide by negative 2. I'm getting b is 22 for my response. Okay, I can check that real quick. If I put 22 in for b, 2 times 22 is 44. 9 minus 44 would be negative 35, and if you take 2/5 times negative 35, you do get negative 14. 22 checks as the correct answer. One last problem, number 33 in the bookwork, another perimeter type question. This is on page 151, by the way. We'll just quickly set this up and get it going. I don't know if I'll solve it all, but perimeter, according to number 33 of this triangle, is 24. They gave me 3 sides. One side is x plus 4 feet, the other side is 4x feet, and the third side is 10 parentheses x minus 1 feet. Remember, perimeter means if I add up all 3 sides, I should be getting 24. Well, let me write that down. If I take 4x and I add to it x plus 4, and I add to that 10 times x minus 1, I'm supposed to be getting 24. What's the first step of solving any of these? Well, I can either simplify or I can drop an onion and unpeel each onion. You notice I have distributing here. So I have 2 choices, simplify or unpeel an onion. Now, for this problem, if I do the onion, I'm going to have a ton of layers. So I think I'm going to simplify this one. I think that would be easier. Let's simplify, okay? Let's distribute real quick. I have 4x plus 1x plus 4. Let's distribute. 10 times x is 10x. 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. Okay, do I have like terms? Yes, I do. I got 4x, I got positive 1x, I got positive 10x. That's 15x. I got like terms here also. Positive 4, negative 10. Positive 4 and negative 10 add up to negative 6. You notice how this turned into a simple 2-step problem fairly quickly. I'm going to stop the video here. I think you can solve this part on your own. Okay? If you have any questions after this, or you have questions on the homework, please don't hesitate to ask me for help.